We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey.
Two things that I want to add is we're trying to figure out who you are, what you like. Don't expect one clear answer straight away. Sometimes you might get that, but sometimes you just need to go out there and try different things
Right.
or meet different kind of people or do something different.
Right.
It's something that has helped me, and that's one of the reasons why I still kind of get to know myself, because I feel like the moment we get to the place where we get like kind of stagnant with where
Yeah.
we are,
Yeah.
or we I feel the moment we think that we fully know ourselves, we stop to get to know ourselves, which is probably the most intriguing journey to be on, to get to know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. Truly.
But then also with that, making decision that you know that is good for you, or you at least assume that it might be better for you, because you sometimes don't know initially if it is or isn't.
Yeah.
One thing that I would comment on is that don't expect to feel great,
No.
because you're gonna feel a lot of fear, but don't be surprised if you feel that. It doesn't mean that the decision is bad or
Correct.
wrong. It's just unfamiliar, and it's not something that you're used to or people around you are used to. So expect to have like reactions or comments or,
Yeah.
stuff like that, because it is different. And that's where, like, I know that for me, that would be really powerful reminder or something to hear when I would make certain decisions like early on, when you're not really sure if it's the right decision for you. Kind of think it is, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
know, when people around you are telling you like you're crazy or all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And sometimes it's easier, or it seems so, to listen to others and be like, oh yeah, I'm crazy, I'm just gonna not do this.
Yeah.
But then you start to again step away from your authentic self. So in that exploration phase, when you start to make those decisions, just be okay with, well, you might not be okay with it actually. Just be aware that you're probably gonna feel fear. You're probably gonna question the decision did the whole time, but you can still go and act on it while you feel those emotions. They're allowed. It's okay, and it doesn't mean that you're now on the wrong path or that you now have to jump back, um,
You
because
know.
that's something that can make you question yourself.
And also one of the things that I began to do is, and this was helping me to learn how to trust myself, is I quit talking to people about things that I was going to do.
Yeah.
I just did. And I made a conscious effort because I thought I got to learn to trust my decisions. In the beginning, there was the fear of, well, I'm just going to do it under the radar so nobody knows. And then if I fail, nobody will know. So there was
Oh
that,
yeah.
right? So they started with that, and then
Yeah.
over time, it just got to the point where I was learning to trust myself. And and so I just started doing stuff and not asking for opinions, but I would do it out in the open so people could see it. And if I failed, well, okay, that just wasn't the right direction, And I also learned to take steps and not just go make a decision and run with it.
Mm.
That was because I was impulsive back in the day. I used to be impulsive and I'd make a decision, just run with it, and then it wasn't the right decision, and then the mess that you have to clean up when you do that. And so what I've also learned is, if it feels right, just take the first step and see and wait. You don't have to go rush out and do the whole thing. I mean, it's rare that that's the right decision to make. And that, because that kind of goes into the whole group of, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, to stop looking at the entire big picture and just bring it down to just one step or a few steps, so that it's manageable for me, so that I don't, because I'll get overwhelmed and I'm done. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I liked your comment on sharing it with others, because I know that for me,
Yeah.
there were stages with this. So initially, I would talk about stuff, but I would do nothing about it.
Yeah.
So
I
it
did
kind
that.
of like feed off of others' feedback of like, oh, you got this, or, like stuff like that. But I didn't believe myself. So I would just tell like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I would never actually do that. It was just my way of, but there was like a lot of shame around not doing it as well. Later, after I have said
yeah.
it and I'm not doing it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't know that. But then like I got to, and I feel like you're on a really good idea there, that the sharing piece, it's starting to change the more you build relationship and trust with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's not like you're doing something so that you're like telling others that like, oh, I'm doing this great thing because you care about what others think. It's like,
Right.
actually, I just feel like it's a thing that I want to do or that I should do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no really other reason than that. Like,
Right.
that's the reason. It
Right.
just came to me. It was my idea, and I just feel like I want to do it.
Right.
But with that sharing with others, it also can be really powerful if you share with people who can either keep you accountable or maybe give some insights or maybe
Right.
give you some support.
Sharing it with safe people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
And I didn't have safe people around me to begin with. So I think that's why I shut down on not sharing.
yeah, and with that, what would be your suggestions on making a decision? Do you share? Do you not share? Who do you share with? Who do you not share with? What are some of the things to look for? Because like who you share with, it can affect how it's gonna go with doing it
Right.
or not
And
doing it.
right. And so and like I was saying, so when I first started doing this, I didn't have safe people around me. I wasn't safe, but I didn't have safe people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as time went on, and you're on your healing journey, you begin to know who's safe and who isn't. And even when you have the safe people, it's not like I go and share with everybody or don't share with everybody. It just depends on the situation. I now really trust myself way more than I ever did. But in the beginning, I didn't trust myself at all. I didn't trust anybody else, and I didn't trust myself. And so it was something I had to build. And so it was trial and error for a little bit. But when I first decided that I was going to do it this way, that I wasn't going to share, it was again because I didn't have people. I shouldn't say they weren't safe. I shouldn't say it like that. I didn't feel that they were safe. And so I wanted to figure this out on my own. And so that's what I did. And once now I'm in relationships that I feel safe in, like even with you, and I share stuff with you. And you give me your opinion. Sometimes you don't, and it's okay. And I don't feel like where before, if I told you what I was going to do and you didn't agree with me, well, then I had to take your answer. That's how I thought.
Oh.
I couldn't counter it. It was like, oh, she said I shouldn't do it. So, okay, I guess I shouldn't do it. And that's where I started.
Wow. Yeah. It's interesting. Because that's another, what do you think is, or like where would you see some of your trauma layering into getting to that place where somebody says something like, let's say you shouldn't be doing this, and you're like, okay, I guess this is not what I'm doing.
Well,
But literally in some ways you literally have no opinion.
And that's how I was raised. That's how I was raised. The thing that I wasn't taught. I wasn't taught things. I mean, I learned what to do and what not to do, but I wasn't taught. There was like this, I don't know, mindset that, well, you should have known. We should have known. And so I went into my adult life with, I should have known.
Yeah, and if somebody says you not to do something, then they must know better.
Right. And I wasn't, and again, and times are different. I'm sure there were a lot of parents in the day, but when I made a mistake, I got punished. I didn't get corrected. I just got punished. I didn't get corrected. I didn't get sat down. Okay, you made this decision and this wasn't the right decision. Let's talk about it. Could have done this different, or even been proactive to teach me so that I wouldn't make that mistake.
Mm. So there's another topic that I wanted to touch on that I feel is really important to talk through, which is body image.
Oof.
Because you mentioned that you were teased about your looks, which that's kind of the first place where you started to kind of step away from your authenticity. Also, because you started to gain weight, no buying clothes, which also in that age is even like being out of shape or anything like that, that can affect how you see yourself and your like self perception. So can you talk more on like your relationship with food, your body image and stuff like that, and maybe where did it started to change or to shift, where you started to not like it, or in some situations it's even self-hate? Maybe talk a bit more on that.
So I started emotionally eating when I look back on it. When I was like 11 or 12 years old, I started definitely putting on weight at 12. So by 8th grade, I had weight on me. Didn't understand it at all, and I'm sure part of it was the eating, part of it was the hormones, and I could just remember, like, we would get done eating dinner and then I would just snack all night. I just ate all night. Like, there's chips, cookies, whatever. My mom bought all this stuff. And so I just thought, oh, just eat it. But what's interesting is you're not hungry after you eat dinner. So
what made it start?
well, it was the abuse with my brother, I'm sure. But I don't remember any conscious, like, I do remember eating. And I do remember, well, my mom made a couple comments about it, but, and one family friend I remember made a comment about it, but other than that, nobody said anything other than my mom. But then in school, of course, we know how fun junior high is and being chubby. And then to make it even worse. So I had really long hair all my life. And by 8th grade, it was actually down like to my butt or even past my butt. And for some reason, my mom wanted my hair cut short. So first I went in to get it trimmed and it got cut to the middle of my back, which was fine. The next time I went in, she told the guy to cut it up to here. And I didn't know it. And so he made the first cut and it was too late. And I was devastated. The worst part is anybody that knows me knows how crazy my hair can be. I have really heavy, thick hair. And what happened is when you take that weight off, it literally just frizzed. So I'm in junior high. I'm emotionally eating. I've put weight on. My clothes are all tight because she won't buy me any more clothes. And then she makes me cut my hair. And I have no idea how to style my hair. I can remember that first day of school. All my friends were devastated that my hair was cut. My dad was furious. And they were like, oh my God, your hair. Oh my God, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And I ended up having some knee problems in that year too, which then I couldn't be quite as active because I was active. I was not that I sat around. I did not sit around during the day and eat. I was active. I was outside playing all the time, swimming. I was very, very active. So I had to wear this big cast on my leg for 4 weeks, and it kind of slowed me down a little bit. But when I got into high school, I think, part of it again was the hormones, and I'm sure they kind of started to settle down once I got into high school. And I got into marching band, which you're out there marching for hours and hours. Plus I was roller skating, again, really active. So the weight came off. And it was like, whoa, look at me. And I was getting attention. And that took me down a wrong direction. I was not promiscuous, but that's where the body image, I could see where, oh, I lose weight and all of a sudden I got this power. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back on it, it's like, wow, that's really powerful. For the first time in my life, I've got power.
So what happens when you get that power?
You mix that with, I've got to find somebody that loves me. It's you pick the first guy, and the first guy is not the right guy.
Or in that moment, it feels like it is.
Feels like it is, because there's somebody paying attention to me, somebody that likes me, And I've got, and I've got other people telling me. I even had other people telling me, he's not good for you. He's not a good guy. Oh, but he likes me. Nobody likes me.
So going through this, gaining weight, having bad experience with that, then losing it and having a lot of attention, how does it affect the way you see yourself or your value?
Well, it confirmed, along with what my mom used to do. So when I was little, I had, long blonde hair. She loved dressing me up. So, Easter was a big deal. She loved dressing me up. We'd go out and go shopping, get the outfit. So I was taught at a young age about how to be really cute, and so I take it into my teenage years. Once I lose that weight, it's powerful. And what does it make me think about myself? I didn't even really think about that when I think, I was just like, oh, okay, so I've got this now. So now I can go find someone to love me. I didn't think a lot about myself when you're asking me these questions. I think back on it. There were moments that I thought about myself, but for the most part, I was out looking for something else. I wasn't looking within myself. Because it was painful. It was painful to look within, and so I didn't. I was looking out.
But one way how you can think of it is because sometimes we can learn a lot through our behaviors. Yeah. So even if you didn't at that time think as much about yourself, there's certain things that your behaviors could have reflected about your beliefs about yourself or your thoughts about yourself.
Yeah.
So with that, my assumption would be that once you know I have lost weight, you get attention, you find somebody to love you, then what happens if you gain weight again? It's it's forbidden.
It is, and yet I did. Right? So I was able to maintain my weight throughout my teenage years and into my early 20s. I got married at 23, and I was able to maintain my weight for a little bit. And then it's funny, I was just telling my husband this story the other day that I probably was 25 and I put on a little bit of weight, and not a lot, a little bit to where my jeans wouldn't fit. And my jeans were already tight, so it didn't take much. And I remember putting on sweats and thinking, there was this moment of thinking, oh, okay, well, I guess this is when I start wearing sweats. And so I started wearing sweats. And my husband said to me, and he, and bless his heart, he was never critical of my weight. And he watched my weight go up and down. And I will say, my ex-husband was really good about that. All he said was, how come you're wearing sweats? Why aren't you wearing your jeans anymore? And my thought was, well, isn't that what you do when you're 25? You just start wearing sweats. It was just so bizarre. So I was like, oh, okay, so I can still wear jeans. Okay. But then for the next 20 years, I battled with my weight. And so much of it, again, I've been active all my life. So it wasn't the lack of activity. It was eating in the evening and eating junk and not eating healthy dinners and punishing myself. And when I think back on it, that's exactly what my dad did. That is exactly what my dad did. His weight would fluctuate and fluctuate and fluctuate. And he would just gulp down food.
So you gave timeline of 20 years, which is not a short amount of time. It it sounds it's like it's one thing to say about it, but it's another thing to live 20 years through that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I battled with it 20 years. It's like, okay, nice, but like actually living it for like 20 years of your life, going through that, which is only like one aspect of what you have gone through. So how did that battle go, and what were some of the things that help you to slowly start to shift things around?
Well, my weight fluctuated up and down. Dieting, dieting, trying all the different diets, drop the weight, put it back on, did that for years. It really started what I really decided to, because I had all these rules about eating. Even though I was eating crappy, there was just all these weird rules that you put, like, well, I don't want to have broccoli because I can't put cheese sauce on it, but I can go eat a bag of chips. I mean, I mean, that's what I did, right? And so, about 10 years ago, I just got tired of the dieting. I thought, it just doesn't work. You diet, you lose weight, then you put it, okay, what's the key? I wanted to find what that key was. And I finally realized that food isn't bad, and I decided then that if God created the food, it's good for me, first of all. And I'm not going to limit it. So, like, I'm not going to stop eating fruit because it's got sugar in it. No, fruit is good for you. So I literally, and I'm still in this phase of rebuilding my relationship with food. And so one of the things I had to break was the habit of eating in the evening, because it turned into a habit. It absolutely became a habit. And so I have stopped that, but also not, I guess I'm allowed to have whatever I want. I can have what I want. I just can't have this much. You know what I mean? It's enjoying the food, but not, I'm enjoying the food rather than just gulping it down and just trying to fill a void. And I'm learning how to make really yummy, healthy food. And, if I slip up and I eat something I shouldn't, it's okay. I don't beat myself up anymore. Do I sit and eat a bag of chips? No, I don't do that anymore. Do I still emotionally eat sometimes? Yeah. Sometimes I just have a mood and I want to go eat, a bowl of chips, and I do. And I give myself grace. It was a long process, yeah, because I went from all these rules and structure that was not healthy, and a mindset of, to think that I would finish dinner and then munch in the evening when I'm not hungry at all. Just like at this point, I'm so aware of it that it makes me sick. But understanding that, I've taken the rules off the table. Now, I don't eat processed food and stuff like that, right? I stay away from a lot of processed food. But what I'm saying is I can't have that now, because that's, I had one person, this is one of the little key things that kind of stuck with me. I had someone say one time, if you want to be thin or healthy, watch a healthy person or a skinny person eat. And for some reason that just stuck with me. And I have observed that. And, I have realized, like, I don't need as much food as I thought I did. This sounds crazy. And some people might think, well, yeah, but this is just,
Once you're in it,
you just don't
it's
see
way
it.
different.
You don't,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just don't see it. You don't understand it. You don't see it. When you come out of it, it's like, and I knew I had to build a new relationship with food, because we need food. It's not like I can stop eating. And I was so tired of even going grocery shopping. Nope, can't have that. Nope, can't have that. Can't have that. And I've got a few groceries in my cart. I just had to change my whole mindset about food and my understanding and my relationship with food.
And I think this is where emotional eating is one of the hardest addictions to break, because it's not like, let's say, some kind of drug or alcohol.
Right.
You can't live without it.
Right.
You can't live without eating. You actually have to do it to survive. And that's where, and like when you buy groceries, you have to go to the store, and practically all stores, they have unhealthy options there as well. So you literally have to deal with daily temptation as you go through that transition phase, in dealing that. But one question that I had with this was, when it comes to even like the diets and everything that you went through, is there any link that looking back you could see between wanting to have control and the eating?
Yeah. So there was a diet I did, and I'm not going to name it on the podcast. There's a diet I did before I married Larry, and it was unhealthy, very restrictive diet. And I did it for 6 months, and I lost the weight, but I was miserable. I was miserable the entire time. The problem too was the calorie intake was so low that I couldn't even work out. So you just took away my number one stress reliever. I mean, I couldn't even walk because the calorie intake was so low, and I was hungry all the time, and I was shaky already. So if I did any kind of exercise, forget it. And I remember talking to my therapist. It was a newer therapist after I had done this, and she said, "Oh, so you just said, oh, fuck you, Lisa." And I was like, that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly what I did. And that was the final straw for me of doing any more diets. That was the final straw, because I thought when she said that, it took me back to when I decided to do this diet. And that's exactly what went through. I am going to lose this weight. And, and that's exactly what I was thinking. And when she said that, it like hit. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I am not doing any more diets. No more.
So with this, what would help to shift? Because I feel like a lot of times the energy behind is really, really important. So I know that for me, a lot of times it would be self-hate or not liking me or the way I looked, and all this kind of stuff, all the insecurities and the whole list. And a lot of times the energy behind certain decisions when it comes to food would be coming from like self-hate instead of like self-love.
Yeah.
Or if love is too strong, even like self-like.
Yeah.
So like in your journey, have you noticed that shift, and what has helped you to shift or like experience it more or go from one to the other?
Well, one of the things that kind of helped me shift that is how I felt physically, and I also had medical stuff with my back and everything. So to me, I just wanted to physically feel better. And so that was like the kind of the number one thing for me, is what helped me to shift, is I needed to physically feel better.
What helped you to remove emotional from that?
That's a really good question. I think what happened for the first time is the desire for me to feel good and take care of myself and be good to myself finally overrode that emotional draw to just eat and eat and eat. I
Do you
think that I
know?
had worked through enough of the trauma that I got to that point. So it's not like all of a sudden, I had been working on my trauma. And so I think that I had done enough healing that I got to that point where I'm like, okay, I got, because obviously this is happening later on in my healing journey rather than earlier. And I think I got enough, I don't know, traction under me and feeling, getting a new relationship with myself, that I finally went, gosh, I really do respect myself. I really, I do want to feel good. That was my number one thing, is feeling good and getting the physical part of it better. And I knew if I got that better, everything else would come in alignment.
And what were some of the emotions that you were trying to eat away?
Oh, the pain of not being loved, the loneliness I was feeling. Absolutely, the loneliness. the constant fear in me. I had so much fear in me all the time. Fear of abandonment, you name it. I was in survival mode. So all the behaviors that come with survival mode, you're just living from moment to moment. You don't have a lot of opportunities to forward think and be able to process stuff. You're just reacting.
And like the reason I'm asking this question is that, ironically, none of it really is about food. It's
Right.
it's about emotions and suppressing them. And you're giving a really good example with your life, really, that the more you work through your trauma or you address some of the underlying emotions or patterns and all this kind of stuff, the less you maybe felt that need to actually eat your emotions away, because you had
Yeah.
other tools or ways to
Mhm.
address them or work through them, or there was literally less and less to work through because you kept working through stuff. And
Yeah. Emotional eating
that's,
is a coping mechanism. It could be, it's almost like a form of addiction. It kind of,
oh yeah,
and so that was what I chose. I chose to binge eat. Other people choose alcohol or drugs or whatever. But it's a coping mechanism, and it's
but
the
I
way
feel
to.
like compared to other addictions, I don't think this is like not like less accepted. What's the opposite? Like it's not something that you're like judged for or whatever. Like I think it's not taken as seriously, maybe.
I think that's true. I don't, and yeah, because I mean, the other addictions,
It's like, oh, at least I'm not using drugs.
right? At least I'm not doing, drinking alcohol or,
Yeah.
but and it's a silent one because you can do it in silence. Nobody will even know.
Yeah. And even like with emotions, one thing that I had identified within myself is the more I started to address and face shame,
Yeah,
the less I had that need of suppressing certain emotions.
true.
Because I feel like for me, the big one was shame.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And also another thing with eating is it's not like you can hide actually, like you can hide the process, but you can't hide the result
No, it's
because you're
gonna
getting
show.
weight.
Yeah. Yep. And
And
that's.
then you feel even worse and you eat even more because that's your coping mechanism.
Hmm.
And then you get even more out of shape and
Hmm.
there's even more shame. And it's like this endless cycle. And I think what I'm just thinking, what is it that can help to break that cycle? Because that cycle can be so steady. um,
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's looking in, one is like looking in the mirror and addressing or looking at those emotions and like facing them. For me, that one definitely helped. Like the shame was the biggest one.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
disempowering shame, which is like one of the quotes that you have on your socials that you said about that, like once you speak it out, it starts to lose its power.
Hmm. Yeah. Once it's spoken out or written out, even when you write it out, it just loses its power. I mean, I don't know if I've experienced it where something's been in my head and it just feels really big, and then I finally say it, and then I'm like, oh God, I was making such a big deal about that. It really doesn't sound that bad now that I say it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's so interesting. It's interesting how our brains work and how it can. Well, I have a ruminating brain. I have an overthinking, ruminating brain, and so I really have to. Now that I'm aware of that, I have to really manage it and catch myself because it just automatically goes there.
So what is your relationship with food now, or even like body image?
Um, I do have to watch it because I'm still, I still do the look in the mirror and can be critical of myself. Um, but
Okay, question here: critical versus judgmental, because I don't think it's bad to
oh,
be
critical.
like critical,
Yeah,
because it's kind of like assessing. That's the fact. This is what I like, this is what I don't like. But
right.
then if you judge it, I think
Yeah,
that's different.
yeah. No, I'm not judging it. And what's interesting is, I had a lot of back problems. I had a few back surgeries, a couple back surgeries over the last 5 years, and and it was a 5 year span of me not being able to work out much, which was really hard. So I lost a lot of strength. And so there's a reason why I'm saying this. So over the last year and a half, I've been able to like go back to the gym. I've been on my Peloton. I'm able to walk. I'm actually able to swim. Where last summer I tried to swim and I just sank. It was very frightening. So what that has done though is I'm actually really proud of myself, and I'm shocked at, like I'll get on my Peloton and I'll think, oh, I don't know if I can do this one, and I'll do the half-hour spin class or whatever. I'm like, wow, I got through it. It was great, and so that whole thing of, rather than being so judgmental against myself, I'm looking at the more positive, and I'm looking at, where I was and where I am now, and that I'm heading in the right direction. And my relationship with food is very different. Do I have a bag of chips in the kitchen? Yeah. But I don't sit and eat. Like, I can have that bag and it'll last me a week or whatever. It's not something that lasts me
This
2
is like
nights.
super binging.
Yeah, I'm not super
Yeah.
binging. And so the thing that I'm learning too is I'm cooking different. I'm cooking with a lot of flavors. I'm not really paying attention to 100% the calories. But again, I'm having just a small dish of it rather than a big dish of it. And because it's got so much flavor, I don't need a big bowl. So it's really changing step by step my thinking about food. So I'm still in the middle of changing my relationship. I would say I'm probably more than halfway through. I'm pretty, doing pretty good. But that those thoughts will still be there, especially when I'm at the store. Oh no, I can't buy that because, and I'm like, do I want that? No, I don't want it, so that's okay. But the rule isn't, well, I can't have it because it's that. It's, no, do I want it or not?
Yeah, and sometimes like something that I started for, or sometimes I literally, as I look at, and for me this is so weird because before I wouldn't even think, I just grabbed the whatever is then healthy thing. But I have started, and it's becoming like more and more natural, where I kind of walk by. I sometimes actually can grab the thing. I'm already walking back, and I'm like, I don't really think I actually want it.
I
Like,
know.
and I just go and put it back.
Yep.
But like, big part of it is also checking in with my body. It's like, do you actually want it? Like,
Yes.
and if I don't hear like, hell yeah, it's like, okay, maybe we just, but it takes time to kind of get your body less addicted from that.
Right. And that's
Because it is addicting.
that's a really good example of what people can do. You can start right there when you're at the grocery store. Pay attention to what you're putting in your cart and really ask yourself every single time you put something in your cart, do I really, really want this?
Yeah. Because
Not
you know what
not if
happens
it's good
is,
or bad, not if it's a good
yeah,
food or a bad food. Start there.
because I think what happens is, in that impulse, when you feel like I so want this right now, when you get this like craving,
Yeah.
you sometimes you don't even care how far it is. You're gonna find a way to get there.
Oh yeah.
You get there, then you get it. And then I think it's important. So let's say as you're walking towards like buying it or whatever, to just stop, even like look in your cart and be like, okay, do I actually want it right now? You need to give yourself some time to kind of wind down a bit emotionally,
Correct.
because then when you feel that like craving, you don't really care. It's not
Correct.
even whether
You're
you
gonna
want it
get
or
it.
not want it. Yeah, you're just gonna get it. And sometimes like and I have done it like a few times now. Like I don't have my brother here right now, but when I was living where like I had my brother around, I would literally buy something and I'm like, do you want it? Because by the time I get back,
You've decided you don't want it.
I have decided like I don't want it anymore. But like it's something that, or I would just like put it in shelf or something. But it's a process to get to that place, because it's not like day one you now are like able to regulate yourself. Because there's like a lot of emotions, a lot of things that
Yeah.
because like if you can't calm yourself down emotionally through that, like what else can you do? And
Right.
then you have to try out different things, which also is a process. It's not happening overnight, but it's something that like some of those like they seem simple things, but they can actually be really helpful. Just checking in with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like, do I actually want it?
Mm-hmm.
And that it's the same thing even after you have bought it and you eat that like pack of chips. Do I actually want another one? Or am I good for the day? And just doing it enough times, and
Giving
well, I I can say it, but like it's not as easy not to judge yourself.
I was just going to say,
Or be
and give
hard.
yourself a lot of grace, because, and you're going to mess up and it's okay. It's a process. It's, it's something that, for me, it was a coping mechanism. I started when I was 11, 12 years old and carried into my adult life. So I wasn't going to get through that overnight. That was going to, and I did a lot of it on my own because, I mean, it is kind of like an eating disorder. If you think about it, I'm actually going to find a good eating specialty disorder, I guess, eating disorder therapist. But yeah, I didn't get through it overnight. It wasn't, I woke up one morning and I felt like this. It was, it was really spending a lot of time with myself and asking those questions. Do I really want this? Is this really important? And giving myself grace of understanding that, look, this was a coping mechanism that I used to get me through a really tough time in my life. And I carried it in my adult life. I had many years of this habit. And so it's not going to end overnight. It's going to take time, and you really need to give yourself a lot of grace, because one of the things that was in my head that I heard months ago was I heard the abuser in my head. And I went and I did something. I don't remember what it was. I made a little mistake or something. I don't remember. And I remember, I can tell you exactly where I was at. I was walking out of our bathroom and I heard the voice in my head just berating me. And I stopped. I literally stopped in my tracks. And I literally even turned around. Like the voice, it felt like it was behind me. It was so weird. And I literally turned around and I said, "Oh, there you are. No, I'm not listening to you anymore." But it was just, and I remember thinking, just before I heard the voice, I was starting to feel like really crappy and just bad about myself. And then I heard the voice and it was so bizarre. And so you need to shut that voice down, because that voice is going to pop up a lot as you're trying to work through this and build a new relationship with yourself. And, if it's not right now, if you can't manage that right now, that's okay. Because again, I had to do a lot of healing before I got to the point of being able to really deal with my emotional eating. I'm not saying that's for everybody else, but that's just my experience. And it made it easier as I've done my healing and I've built a new relationship with myself. It's become easier for me to manage my eating, because I am much more aware of, I do want to feel good. I want to take care of myself. I want to feed my body and not stuff my body anymore.
Yeah. All right. So that's little insight into your background.
Yeah. A lot of
And
insight.
and your journey. So how do you feel about the next 100 episodes, or the next, or anything you want to say to the listeners?
Well, we do have some exciting stuff coming up, but I'm excited about the next 100 episodes because, again, there's 3 pillars to my to my podcast, right? So it's giving people a voice to tell their story, bringing on the experts, and bringing awareness. And I just love that so many people are willing to come on and share their story, because it isn't easy. And it does take a lot of bravery. And I've been really, the one thing that's really cool about the first 100 episodes is I've had such diverse people. I've had men on, I've had and I love that. I keep saying love, love, love. I'm going to stop saying love, love, love. That's something I'm going to stop. But it's so wonderful that people are stepping up and sharing their stories and being brave and helping others. So that's been really exciting. But going forward, should I talk about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So what's coming up is I am recreating the workshop that I did years ago that I've talked about on the podcast for women. And the idea is I'm kicking it off in January, and it's called the Women's Childhood Abuse Healing Workshop. And more details will be coming, but it is an 8-week private, secure, safe group. We keep the group small, but it's intense, and you're going to do a lot of healing in it. And then what's really cool is there's a lot of support while you're in the workshop and after. So it's not like you go through the workshop and okay, good job, see ya. we're building a community. So I'm really excited about that, and just be looking for more information coming out soon. We're working on it now, but yeah, it's coming out, and I'm so excited about it. And I know it's going to make a difference. I know it is.
Yeah, it will. It will. All right. Well, I guess I'll see you next time then.
Yeah. Thank you. You
Stepping into the second 100.
I know, right? Here we go.